This is Dinah Lane of Channel 18 in Harwich. It's very nice to be here with you. And today I have the pleasure of introducing two people who are involved in the Harwich Fund. One is Brian Sheld, who is a co-founder of the fund and a member of the committee. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Dinah. Thank you for having us.
Very nice to see you, and I love your background. And Rich Cogan, who is also a member of the advisory committee and has a lot of information to share about the needs of Harwich. But let's start first with Brian, if you could, as a co-founder, perhaps you can tell us how this all came about.
Thanks, Dinah. Happy to do that. So the Harwich Fund came about by actually a marriage forged by the Cape Cod Foundation. Kristen O'Malley, who is the president and at the time CEO, and at the time Hank Holden, who I think was the chair of the board. They knew me being a resident of Harwich had an interest in giving back to Harwich. I'd been a member of the scholarship and grant committee for some time. Another member of the leadership team of Cape Cod Foundation, Charlie Hellowell, at the same time was saying the same thing. So Kristen and Hank brought Charlie and myself together, and in 2018, we formed the Harwich Fund. It takes an awful long time and a great deal of effort to get one of these off the ground. And what really gave us the energy to get it moving was really the spring of 2020, when COVID-19 took the world by storm. And it was then that we formed an active core working team, Rich Cogan being one member. Another couple of key core members are Cheryl Barnes and Dr. Bonnie Scott. And there is where we really put the energy together to grow, to both define the vision, the mission, and extend our reach by understanding the needs of the community. And picture the Harwich Fund is really a permanent endowment to serve the needs of the Harwich community. And we spent a great deal of time trying to understand what those needs are so that we could focus initial interest with having the highest impact.
Okay, great. And I understand you do exclusively fund other nonprofits.
That is true. We fund exclusive nonprofits, those that are either operating in Harwich or, most importantly, serving the needs of Harwich residents.
That's actually very important, I think, for people to understand, so that they don't think it's yet another helping organization which is working on its own. This is really, really an adjunct to a lot of other organizations that are already in play, correct?
That is exactly right. We are an additional arm to help support these nonprofits. And what we do is they identify programs and projects that we can help give some energy to help give them seeding and get them off the ground. And probably hasn't been a year as profound for some of that need, especially with the young families, as what we've seen in 2020.
Absolutely. Yes, I would imagine so. So Rich, can you tell us a little bit about what you found in your analysis of the needs of Harwich? I know you did some deep looking at what the needs are here.
Sure, thanks, Dinah. We took a look at the needs within the town by doing two things. One was trying to gain an understanding of the economic and other statistics for the town. And the other was talking to the not-for-profits who operate within the town to get their on-the-ground assessment of the needs. And what we found was that when you look at the economic and social data, Harwich as a whole is a very prosperous town with a strong income base for the people who live there, but those kinds of aggregate statistics mask a lot of differences. And as we looked at the wealth of data available from the US Census and from other organizations that have studied Cape communities, we found significant economic and other disparities within the town. In a town of about 12,500 people, there are almost 1,500 who have annual incomes below 150% of the federal poverty line. There are over 700 who have annual incomes below the federal poverty line. Approximately half of all the elementary school students qualify for the subsidized free lunch programs. There are about 1,500 people within the town who are classified federally as having disabilities. And there are almost 40% who, by federal definitions, have housing insecurity. They're spending a percentage of their annual income on housing that is not sustainable. And when we spoke with the not-for-profits, we confirmed that really it's the youth and families and seniors and people with disabilities within the town who have, significant needs that are now being met by not-for-profits to the extent they can. But those organizations have needs to sustain and expand their activities. And because of that, we decided to focus on those kinds of human services needs.
Okay. So can you tell me how do people apply for these funds, or are these things that you identify and then grant without an application process? How does that work?
No, they typically come from the nonprofits themselves and projects that they've identified, and then they'll come to us. We're modeled after 3 other town funds that operate within the Cape Cod Foundation, one being Chatham, another being Falmouth and Sandwich. So once we're just in on our initial stages, so many of the ideas for the grants have come from the initial conversations that we've had with nonprofits that Rich just pointed to. But over time, they will probably be more grant applications, if you will. But right now, they've really come from the collaborative discussions.
Okay. And do you imagine that this will be your permanent focus, or do you imagine things evolving over time?
That's a great question. We do see this as by far and away the most profound purpose, especially 2020 and COVID related. But we do anticipate this growing over time to include historical, cultural, environmental types of causes, if you will, that we can help support. And again, mirroring the types of things that the Cape Cod Foundation does for all of Cape Cod.
Yes.
So we're focused on the needs of our community. So wherever our community speaks to have the greatest need, that's where we want to be focused.
I see. Okay. I think of that as being also some of what the Community Preservation Foundation does in terms of historical and cultural things.
Correct. Well, then they may have a special project that they might look for special seating on. So we're not trying to replace anything.
Right.
We're
right.
Think of us more as an endowment to serve the needs of the entire community. As I say, by Rich's description, we've got a very tight focus because of the great need that we see speaking loud and clear right now. But we do anticipate it growing over time.
Yes, and truly Harwich helping Harwich, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
That's
absolutely,
really,
and we absolutely mean that. I mean, that mission and theme, it means quite a bit to us, and it means quite a bit to those that we've been speaking with.
Great. So you are also trying to raise funds for this, naturally enough, because that's how you're going to pay for all these things that are so much in need. And so can you tell me a little bit about your fundraising efforts, how you're approaching them?
Sure. And we're in the process of doing some reach outs, some personal calls, some emails, and we'll probably grow that campaign over time. And we're really doing it in 2 parts. One is to create an awareness for what we are, and then create an invitation for those that would like to donate. And donation of any kind is helpful, but especially those that were looking to sign on to become community philanthropists, which would mean significant participation in what we're doing. And if you think about it, what we are is a conduit to the needs of the town. So for those households, those families that don't necessarily, that have the means to give, but don't know where at any given point in time is most appropriate, we can be that conduit for them.
Yes, right. it sounds like a great way for people to be able to give and not have to make all those decisions about which one is most needy, because that's part of the work that you all are doing. Is that right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Okay. And do you have a website?
We do. It's a town fund listed under the Cape Cod Foundation. I
Okay.
could provide you that URL following this, but if you go to Cape Cod Foundation, follow the clicks through the town fund and you'll land on the Harwich Fund. And it'll give you a little bit more background as to who we are, where we are, our advisory committee members, and ways to donate.
And ways to give, yes. Exactly what people need to do in order to contribute. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds all great. Do you have anything else that you would like to share before we finish up here?
Sure. The only thing I would add is that the concept of the Harwich Fund has been received very enthusiastically, certainly by the nonprofits, because it's an additional arm for them.
Yeah.
And we're in touch with many of them in Harwich. And those people that we have talked to as prospective donors are very excited about what we're doing and the impact that this is able to make on Harwich, not just in 2020, but as I say, it's a permanent endowment. So it's something that will live on in perpetuity. So it's one of those activities that it feels good to participate in, because we are helping those neighbors that need the help the most, as Rich pointed out. I think people are surprised to hear that there is that kind of a need in the town that we live in, especially with this picture behind me. But there is a need. There is a
Yes.
need, and for those that are able to and can give, I think we're a wonderful conduit to those places that will have that gift will make the greatest impact.
Well, it sounds like a great idea, and congratulations on being a co-founder. And Rich, congratulations on being part of this tremendous effort. And I really appreciate both of you coming on to talk about it. And I hope that people will check it out further and be able to help donate or access your services wherever people are. So
Thank you for the opportunity to describe it, Dinah. We very much appreciate it.
Thanks
welcome.
very much, Dinah. We're excited with the start we've gotten off to, and we're really hopeful that, with help from the kind of exposure we'll get from this interview and the other efforts we're making, that people will know more about what we're trying to do and hopefully help join the effort.
yes, well, hopefully this will help with the visibility. And good luck to you all. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Dinah.
Yeah, this is Dinah Lane from Channel 18 in Harwich. Thank you so much.
Anyway, for all of you creative folks out there, we have a contest, Community Journal naming. We are looking for public input on renaming the Community Journal show. So put your creative hats on and think about a nice, and be kind, a nice name for the show. We will gather all the suggestions and do a Facebook survey to choose a new name. You can send your suggestions to this email. Everything is lowercase and no spacing. J Goodwin, Goodwin, at town.harwich.ma.us. I'll say that again. J Goodwin at town.harwich.ma.us.
Very good.
Looking forward to seeing all of your suggestions.
Yeah, that ought to be interesting to see what comes back. That ought to be interesting.
Hello, this is Dinah Lane from Harwich Channel 18. And I'm delighted to be with you here today to talk with Michael Locke and Tyler Maycath of the Harwich Conservation Trust. It's so great. We haven't had a talk in a long time, and I know there's been lots going on and many, many changes. So I think we'll start first with Tyler, who is going to tell us about what's been happening with land stewardship over the past several months and volunteer opportunities. Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Dinah. It's great to see you and great to be talking with you today. The last 7 months have been pretty different for all of us, and we've had to adapt the way that we do land stewardship. We took a pause on volunteering even outside for a while in the springtime. We restarted volunteer citizen science and stewardship projects in June. We started first with nest box monitoring. Our volunteers went out and they continued to check nests on birds on town and HCT properties, gathering data about nesting birds on all those properties. So that was great to see that continue this year. Then in July, there was additional guidance from the state that would allow us to do some small group volunteering projects outside. So since then, we've been doing a lot of trail work and invasive plant removal projects and habitat management. So we've been all over Harwich. You know, we have a great group of volunteers at HCT here. We all do our part to keep each other safe. We all distance and wear masks even outside. And it's been really great to be a part of, and people really enjoy doing it every week. So it's mostly regulars every week. So at least at the moment, volunteers for other volunteer opportunities are a little bit limited. For the group land stewardship, but we're always accepting new volunteers, and there are some independent opportunities that are available. And also we would be looking for volunteers for other small projects that we're not having a big group work on. So
Okay, so if people are interested in volunteering, they should get in touch. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that people are excited about the opportunity to get outside and do some really meaningful work too. Everybody's looking for something to do, and being outside is ideal. So it's great.
especially in the fall. Yeah, it's
Yeah, and such a beautiful fall. Yes. Okay,
so,
thank you.
if the best thing to do is to go to our website,
Mhm.
and in the top bar of the website, there's a link to tell us about your volunteer interests.
Okay, great.
There's a little form there that we just ask people to fill out so we can receive their contact information and just learn a little bit about them and make sure that it's going to be a good fit for both of us. And you know, generally everything works out wonderfully. So
I'm sure it
I look
does.
forward to hearing from anybody new out there who's interested in working with us.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
Michael, I know you want to talk about Sand Pond Woodlands, which is a very, very exciting initiative that you're working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Dinah, and thank you and Channel 18 for connecting us to the community again, and so many other happenings around town. Really appreciate with the community. Their first introduction would have been through a newsletter that we sent townwide with the title Dragons, Damsels, and the Quest to Save Sand Pond Woodlands. And it's a tremendous opportunity to preserve 6.65 acres as part of the last piece of the Sand Pond Woodlands puzzle, which is a larger 75-acre assemblage comprised of Harwich Conservation Trust owned and town owned conservation land, all within the watershed to Sand Pond, which also hosts the town swimming beach, which I understand is the site of swimming lessons for many a kid, now become adults over the years, decades past, people having their swimming lessons experience right there in Sand Pond. Well, this area is right opposite that. And it's also within the watershed to Herring River, and even further downstream West Reservoir, which is a very pleasant destination for many who are walking the town Bell's Neck conservation land trails around West Reservoir. So it's an amazing location to have the opportunity to preserve this last piece of this conservation puzzle for water quality protection, for wildlife habitat protection. That's where we get into the dragons and damsels reference. So this is 6.65 acres of mature native pine oak woodland, which turns out hosts a number of dragonflies and damselflies that spend some of their adult stage of their life cycle in those woodlands. And they will zip back and forth to the pond shore for the other part of their life cycle. And so the proximity of this mature woodland to the pond shore, as well as the wetland that's next door, is really important. It turns out could be up to 30 different species of dragonflies and damselflies. And we found that out because a local resident, Blair Nicula, who happens to be the co-author of the Beginner's Guide to Dragonflies and Damselflies, as well as the statewide field guide to dragonflies and damselflies, visited the site this summer, and within 30 minutes identified 7 different species and said that for sure up to 30 different species could be discovered in subsequent site visits in 2021. So it was pretty interesting when you look closely at the habitats and the wildlife that depend on these areas for foraging or feeding, sheltering and nesting. The diversity is quite inspiring. And so looking at it through the lens of dragonflies and damselflies, we found that to be the case. We also happened to find on a site visit with naturalist Don Schall, who happens to be a biologist and botanist, he identified quite a different variety of plant species. And then we came across a little Fowler's toad that was hopping about. That was quite a nice surprise. Frankly, nowadays, I don't see as many of those on my walkabouts. So it was great to see this little Fowler's toad making a home in the sand pond woodlands landscape as well. A variety of songbird species, raptors, hawks, owls are likely to utilize the land as well as a nearby wetland for foraging. So hosts a variety of wildlife, mammals too, and also provides a very scenic walking trail experience. There's already a formal trailhead on Great Western Road. And as Tyler mentioned, our website, harwichconservationtrust.org, in addition to that tab on the navigation bar that says volunteer, where they can find out more about submitting their interest for volunteer projects, there's another tab that says trails. So you click that and you'll find a list of the 12 mapped conservation destinations for trails. Top of that list is Sand Pond Woodlands. And you could download that map and look at it on your smartphone and head out onto the trail. Tyler, you've been out and about on those trails. It's quite a scenic experience, especially in the fall, I think, with these colors changing all around us.
Yeah, I haven't been down the Herring River yet this fall, unfortunately, but there's a lot of maples and tupelos along the river valley, so it must be a beautiful place to be right now. And on the north side of the pond, it's also a lovely place to be. There's some wonderful pickerel weed growing along the shoreline, which is flowers during the summer, and we very much enjoyed that. We visited the site a couple months ago to work on the trails, but it's a wonderful trail system, and it's a little bit of a remote area of Harwich, so it feels very peaceful.
Like a little getaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
people are feeling stir crazy, that might be a good place for them to go.
It's interesting you say that, Dinah, because we're seeing more and more people out on the land, actually,
I
at this
believe
social
it.
distancing time. They're looking for ways to
Mm-hmm.
connect safely with each other outdoors, or even connect with nature. So this provides another chance to do that with this Sand Pond Woodlands project.
It certainly does, and I'm so grateful all the time about the conservation that we have here in Harwich, as well as all over the Cape. I mean, there's just wonderful, wonderful trails, but we're so lucky here to have so many beautiful places to explore. And I was thinking about the tupelos. The tupelos in our yard have turned, and they are just gorgeous right now. So I'm sure that there's lots of beautiful things to see. So Michael, did you want to talk about the raising of the funds for the Sand Pond Woodlands before we end? I know you'd like to maybe tell people a little bit about what the initiative is there.
Sure, thanks for that opportunity. So the project goal in total is 1,225,000. So this is the site of an approved 7-lot subdivision. So that hence the value of the land. And there's been 2 anonymous families who have pledged a total of $1 million. So that left 225,000 left to raise.
Mhm.
And over the summer, we received about $5,000 in donations, everything from $25 to $1,000, everything in between. It all makes a difference. And most recently, there have been a handful of donors to offer half of the remaining 220,000. So that would be a challenge of 110,000 if we can raise the final matching amount of 110,000. So that's what we're striving to do by December 31st, is raise that match amount of 110,000, and then we'll reach our goal as a community in saving this beautiful piece of land connected to water, wildlife, and people's walking trail experience.
Well, it sounds absolutely spectacular, and be wonderful for people to experience it. So thank you very much for joining me here. And we will look forward to talking again before as long passes, for sure, because you always have things going on, and now we're back online. We can do this. So it's great to see you both. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Tyler. And this is Dinah Lane for Harwich Channel 18. Thank you so much.